Welcome, brave souls, to another haunting chapter of Ghost Girl Diaries, where the supernatural awaits, transmitting from the other side, where paranormal meets glamour. I'm your host this evening, Krystal Leandra, the Queen of the Dead, a paranormal filmmaker and investigator, and the glam behind the ghost hunt. Here we dive into spine-chilling hauntings, explore the unknown, and uncover the secrets across the most haunted locations in the world. Whether you're a believer or a skeptic, you're in for a thrill. So grab your EMF meter, your crystals, and your cross, because things are about to get supernatural with a little bit of glam. Let's get haunted. This is Ghost Girl Diaries. It's gonna sound insane, but I have literally been being haunted by Sarah Winchester. I'm not even kidding. So I think it was maybe 2 or 3 months ago, not even joking. I did like a scrying session and an automatic writing session with Sarah Winchester on my Patreon, okay? Just on a whim. I don't even know. It was one of those things where I'd been thinking about Sarah Winchester randomly. And I was like, it'd be kind of cool to like do a scrying session and see what happens. And I swear, ever since then, I cannot stop dreaming about this woman. And I think she is just inevitably continuing to visit me in the ether. So today, welcome to Ghost and Glam, a podcast for Ghost Girl Diaries. We're going to talk about Sarah Winchester and how I feel she may be misunderstood just from what I've experienced with her energy. The more she shows up, the more I realize maybe the media has her completely wrong. I mean, who was Sarah Winchester? We know the basics, right? I've talked about this before, but never from my mediumship perspective. So she was born in New Haven, Connecticut in 1893, married to William Winchester. We all know that he was the heir to the rifle company. Another thing that we know that's famous about her is she lost her daughter in 1866 named Annie. It was essentially ruled that it was a wasting disease that the child had obtained. Do I go pale or not pale? Which one do? I think I'm going to do like a modern twist on Victorian makeup. Like if Victorian met goth glam, let's go with it. And then her husband, William, died of tuberculosis in 1881. So this woman was really comfortable with the afterlife because everyone around her just kept dying. Girl, I know the feeling. Maybe that's why she's reaching out to me. It's so weird too. Like the more people that you have pass away and cross over, like for me, a majority of my biological family has crossed over to the other side. I was an only child, so that makes it even weirder. And it's a strange sensation at a young age for me to have a majority of my family be on the other side. It's a bizarre feeling to have more family that's, home versus here on earth. I had to learn how to get comfortable with that for a long time because it was uncomfortable at first. It was also a strange thought process for me to think, I'm such a firm believer that when we incarnate here, that we pre-planned our life to some extent, every day we can make choices and we can go this way or that way, but still at the end of the day, as a general statement, we plan our lives. And I'm like, that is so bizarre that I chose to incarnate into a family where I'm an only child and everyone crosses over before I even hit the age of 40. Now, the crazy part was after William died, Sarah inherited his fortune, which was like $20 million at the time. So, I don't even know what the math would be like if it was converted in today's dollar. I think it'd be a lot, especially considering they were out of California. California's economy, like there's a reason it's so expensive to live there. I know, because I lived in LA for many years. So it's crazy because when she was alive, there's a story that's told that she was explained by a medium that she had been cursed, that Sarah Winchester had been cursed. The medium claimed that because her and her husband owned this rifle company, that anyone that died at the hands of the rifle, she was going to be haunted by eternally because it was a curse. The medium said, build forever and help the souls cross over or be haunted, essentially. Can I just say, what an asshole medium, if that's true? And there tells you where you have to be careful when you run into people with psychic abilities, because sometimes people like to use vulnerability. I mean, they probably saw Sarah coming with a lot of money and thought she was vulnerable to it. Now, I'm not going to lie. This is where I'm going to interject just from, Sarah's energy and her visiting me in dreams so much. I mean, I have extremely prophetic dreams. I told you I have like a 99% accuracy. So when I'm getting dreams in the ether, often it comes true. I'm a dream walker. That's what they're called. You're called a dream walker if you can predict things. I think that initially it started out as a fear-based tactic where, this person told Sarah that, these souls are unrested. You should feel guilt because they're dying at the hands of, your husband's weapon company, and now you're part ownership. So you're just as guilty. Here, and remember this, let's think about this too. Like we're talking about egregores. I've been talking about that a lot lately. When you think a thought or have a thought process, and this also goes back to like manifestation, right? Or affirmations, whatever reality you're choosing to lock into will become, right? Good or bad. Remember, the universe doesn't say no. The universe does not say no. It says yes. So if you continue to say, I am poor and broke for the rest of my life, the universe will say, yes, you are. If you say, I am abundant and money comes to me easily and effortlessly, the universe will say, yes, it does. So the universe only says yes. My point of this conversation is this. If a psychic told Sarah that she was going to be haunted eternally from these individuals, and she already had a fear of death and dying, probably because of all of the death that she had seen in her actual human life, she probably brought those souls forward, right? Because she believed what the psychic said, you will be haunted by these people. And Sarah said, okay, I am now locking into that frequency. I am believing that frequency. So I do believe that initially Sarah did believe this psychic, and that's why she started the building process. However, I don't think that is the purpose of why it continued 24/7. My belief, just from experiencing Sarah's energy in dreams, is that once she started interacting with the other side and the occult, whether it was, I think she did the old school Victorian ghost hunting, and obviously she was known for scrying and automatic writing. I think she enjoyed it. I think she was not only able to contact her dead family on the other side, because she became very proficient in at that time, she would have been an elite ghost hunter of the age, but it would have been frowned upon due to religious trauma, remember, because Catholicism was quite prevalent, and you have to think that was post, witch hangings in Salem and in Europe, and that could be scary for someone, especially a woman, right, to be ghost hunting. However, she was an elite woman. She had a lot of money, and she really kept the town going that she lived in California. So they probably wouldn't have put her away or hung her just because of her status, but still it could have been quite dangerous. So I think, generally speaking, she was very private when it came to her ghost hunting. However, I think she was extremely spiritually in tune. And once she realized that she could connect with others on the outside, on the other side, she would not only do that with her family, but she would also do it for spirits. So I think the continued build wasn't out of a fear-mongering process from a psychic. I think it became an enjoyable process, and I think she actually became extremely good at what she did, which was communicating with the other side, and I think she actually did help spirits cross over. In fact, I think she is still in that house helping spirits cross over. Now, just being 100% real, this story about this supposed medium telling her that, she would be haunted forever if she didn't build indefinitely, there's really no backup of evidence that this happened. So, from a historical or a historian perspective, it could have just been hearsay. It could have, think about it. She was wearing black all the time. She was a modern day Victorian goth girl, okay? She was probably kind of considered a town weirdo, although once again, she was really good at, keeping the town busy with construction work 24/7. So they weren't going to do anything because she was the economy. Sarah was the literal economy for California at the time. However, you know how people talk. I mean, people do it till this day online. Imagine if you don't have the internet and you're just a local townsman and you see this woman in constant mourning, always wearing black, you know, seemingly just completely depressed about the death of her husband and daughter permanently. And I am honestly going to say I don't know if that's actually true either. I mean, I'm sure she did miss her family that had crossed over, but I don't think she was always in mourning. I really think that she was extremely, what's the word I'm looking for? I think she was just a master at the occult techniques for its time. But I think she had to be very quiet about it. She had to be very private about it. Because if she wasn't, I mean, she probably had some sort of fear in her that, you know, being a woman could have meant being hung at the stake. And once again, going back to religious trauma, who knows what people would have done if they found out she was contacting the dead. I mean, the press, I'm sure, had a field day with this information coming out on her. They probably wanted to know so much about her, but she was always known for being an extremely private woman. Once again, going back to the Gothic lifestyle as we know it to this day, I'm outgoing if I'm around a group of people that I'm familiar with. But if I'm around people I don't know, I am quite quiet. I become a little bit of the wallflower. And I think that's a pretty typical output for the alternative goth kids because we were always picked on in school, right? I mean, I was as well. So imagine being in the Victorian era. She's essentially creating an image that doesn't really exist. It's not like she could Google the Gothic aesthetic. Essentially, she was just considered a widow aesthetic, a permanent widow aesthetic. And she looked like she was just a weirdo by like continuing to build for like these dead people. So she was probably an outcast. Plus, she was part of a high society back then. Not everyone was worth $20 million. How does one make friends with people, you know, that doesn't have a social class or a social circle where they have a high standing of, you know, other people of that same wealth status? I think I'm starting to channel because when it happens, my mind goes blank and my thoughts don't become my own. And so sometimes when I try to force it, like when I try to force not channeling, because right now I'm trying to like stick to my facts of like the story that I wanted to tell you guys, sometimes it messes me up worse. So if I say something strange and I don't remember what I said, then I'm probably channeling because I can tell like my mind starts to go blank and I feel like I start to stutter when I start to channel. Ooh, I just heard what I thought was like a growl in my studio, but I'm not really sure which direction it came from. I mean, the press did have a perfect story on her. She was a grieving, chronically ill, apparently, you know, widow, a woman who was obsessed with constantly doing construction on her mansion. It was weird from the outside. She was essentially becoming an architect without a license, without schooling, without a degree, just with money. She would literally study construction manuals and like direct the workers on what to do next. That's why the Winchester house is so strange, because she's the one that created it, not contractors. 38 years straight that they worked on that house. That is insane. So I want to talk like what happened when I did that scrying session with Sarah. So I've done a few scrying sessions that are on my Patreon page, and I'm going to do another one tonight for this week. So it's going to be an updated one. I'm going to do like a PSP 7 for Patreon to see if Sarah comes through. I'm going to do a scrying session and an automatic writing session. I'm doing these to try to get better at them. I'm using it as like practice runs because it's kind of like a muscle. Like any psychic ability is a muscle. You only get better the more you practice at it, right? So she came to me in dreams, basically at that point. It's been at least once a week since like January or February that she's literally come to me in my dreams. And what she wants is for me to talk about her. She wants me to talk about her life. She also keeps repeating that she wants to teach me. She wants me, I know this is like crazy specific, but in the dreams, she is asking me to do weekly sessions with her for Patreon, which I wasn't really planning on turning it into that kind of a series. But she is like, I don't want to use the word demanding because that's not accurate. She's not like a demanding presence, but she is wanting to teach me her ways. And essentially from what I've gathered in the dreams is she has not crossed over. She has no plan to cross over. she is still helping spirits cross over through the Winchester house. It is basically like one giant portal. She loves what she does, and she has no intentions of leaving. She loves that house. She loves the people that are running it, which is very rare, because I've done spirit box sessions with other locations where they do not like the people running it. So she is very content with the people running the Winchester house. She thinks that they're doing it right, which I think is amazing, especially for someone to give praise like that in the afterlife. Her presence, or like her emotional signature when she visits, is very warm, but I'm not going to say it's like a mother. It's like a mentor. I don't know if any of you out there have ever done witchcraft, but I have practiced witchcraft, and I do practice witchcraft. And as you guys know, I've been visited from, the other side. Like, I've worked with Hermes, I've worked with Hades, and I've worked with Hecate. This is nothing that I summoned myself. They came to me naturally. So Sarah has a presence that's similar to Hecate. It's kind of odd though, because a lot of people online, or what you would consider like a baby witch, which I think is an actual, I think that's a very degrading term in my opinion. I don't think anyone is a baby witch. I think you just are a witch, period. But I know that genre, which is witchcraft, is very gatekept. So I try to keep myself out of the witchcraft community, because I think it's very toxic. But Hecate can be seen as very scary and foreboding and almost demanding, and that's not what I've experienced with her. Maybe that's because she comes to me in motherly form, very much motherly form, and that is how Sarah Winchester is. She knows she's incredibly powerful. She knows what she's capable of. She understands that she has a gift to cross souls over, which is why she doesn't want to leave, which to me is so odd, because I had asked her, why would you want to stay earthbound? And I think she'll cross over someday, but she's just not done yet. She doesn't think it's necessary. I also think that time doesn't quite exist on the other side the same way we perceive it. So to her, she's been gone since, the 1800s or whatever, early 1900s. To her, it could feel like maybe a couple of months that she's been gone. So it's just very different. I'm going to use the Beauty Bay Midnight palette. I've been really wanting to do some sort of a blue look. So I'm going to go in with this palette. And I also have the Jolie palettes. I think I want to do something a little bit more royal, but I do have Spellbound, which is Jolie, and it has some really beautiful shimmers in it. I like the dark blues once again. And I also have, I think there's another one that's over here. I have this Siren palette, but I think this is a little bit more of an aqua palette, but there are some blues. So I'm just going to I'll let you know which shimmers that I use. So when Sarah visits me, she's honestly very clear in her communication. She does not come to me and make me feel afraid. Although, I've had my psychic abilities for my whole life. It really picked up. The dream walking got pretty serious after my mother's death. So my mother was killed in 2022, and I experienced my own personal near-death experience. And when that happened, my psychic abilities basically turned on like a light switch. And I've talked about this in the past, but when I first got my full-blown abilities, they were stronger than they had ever been my whole life. I'd always had, premonitions and dream walking, but it had never been as clear as it is now. So I was scared at first when my abilities really came online. So that was 2022. I really learned how to hone in on my abilities. And I know some people ask stuff like, oh, are you scared when energies come to you? Not necessarily, because my spirit team, I'm heavily protected in spirit, and they don't just let anything come through. I also don't have a fear of anything dark or negative entities. I don't experience those because I don't have religious trauma or a background with dark energy. So yeah, I just don't have that experience. So when Sarah came to me, it was just very forward. It was hi, hello, how are you? I would like to help you with your abilities. And I even remember this was a dream that I'd had. It was so odd. I was in this, what felt to be a Victorian parlor, which is strange to say because obviously this is the 2020s. How would I even know what a Victorian parlor felt or looked like? And I was in this dream, and it was kind of maybe a speakeasy, I guess would be an easy way to describe it. And I was sitting at this table, and kind of looked like the old school round tables where they would rock it back and forth during like, a seance and stuff like that. And it was very dark in the room, and it felt like a restaurant setting or a bar or a speakeasy. And all of a sudden, a woman walked in the room, and it was dark. This is in my dream, so this is how clear it was. And I only could see her silhouette, and she was wearing a bun in her hair, and she had on a Victorian era gown. And it's odd because I couldn't really see her face at first. I'm going to do like a halo eye. I couldn't really see her face at first. And I didn't know how to address her properly. But this is how it kind of works in the spirit realm when you have visitations from the other side. When I was in my dream, I immediately looked at her, and this is before I could even like clearly see her face. I could only see or feel her energetic signature, and I immediately looked at her and I just said, "Are you Sarah Winchester?" And she said yes. So I don't really know how it works in the ether. I'm not really from that side, I guess, currently. So if you're asking me in-depth questions about it, your guess is as good as mine. But that was when the dream started, and she sat down with me basically at this sort of speakeasy to tell me kind of her life story, and that she had decided not to cross over because, also just for the record, because I've ghost hunted at hundreds of places, you guys know, with my production background as a producer, I have never had a spirit be so cognizant. Like a lot of souls that you encounter from the other side, and whether this is ghost hunting or psychic abilities, a lot of times they are not cognizant of their own reality. So what I mean by that is, like, when I did the documentary that I won all those film festival awards, that was Chloride, right? Chloride, Arizona. It's this very haunted mining town that was originally Native American land, and the Native Americans had their land taken. It was a really traumatic piece of land. Long story short is, when we were doing spirit box sessions, there were spirits coming through that had no idea that they were dead. They'd been dead for 100 years and they didn't know that they were gone. So we were having to re-explain every time new spirits would come through and say, this is, you have to choose to cross over. You have to ask, your guides, your angels to go. You don't have to stay here. But they didn't know they were dead. And they kept repeatedly thanking us for letting them know that they were dead. Like, thank you. Like, my God, thank you so much. So for Sarah to come through and to understand cognitively, I'm channeling right now. I'm like, I get this spidey sense. I can't really explain. It feels like this surge of energy kind of like goes up the back of my head like a hand. And it feels like I'm wearing a hat when it happens. And it's like almost the warning of like when you're about to start channel like information. And now I've lost my train of thought. Like, I don't even remember what I was going to say. It was something about Sarah being cognizant of, it's happening again. Sarah is extremely cognizant of understanding that she died, understanding that she has no desire to want to cross over into the light. Has nothing to do that she doesn't want to see her family. She does, but she wants to stay. She feels like her soul's purpose is to fulfill helping energies cross over. And see, I just did it again. I just blanked out. I just got tapped on the arm, like, keep going. Basically says that there are energies that use the Winchester house somehow like a portal. She built the house and the stairways and the doorways as portal entrances. So I'm getting tinnitus in this ear. Certain energies can just show up at the house, but I think there's also energies that follow people to the Winchester house that are like dead family members of people that are visiting Winchester, and they get Sarah's help and obtain her help to also cross over. So she's doing some serious spiritual work through the other side with the choice of not crossing over. I do believe she will cross over someday, but I don't think it's going to be during our lifetime. I think it's going to be hundreds and hundreds of years from now. I think one day she's just going to wake up and say, I think I'm done. And I think she's looking for someone to bestow that upon. So I'm not sure if she's looking for another energy that would work with her or that would help her cross over. But once again, I think she's very satisfied with the way the house is being run. Oh my God, I can't hear it all out of this ear. So a lot of reoccurring symbols and energy that she gives me is candles. She's really good at candle magic. And I've done this before on my Patreon page when I worked with her and I did some scrying sessions. She actually communicates heavily through the same ways that they would have, communicated ghost hunting in the Victorian age. Once I get moved to Colorado, I'm not even kidding you, I want to set up like a haunted parlor in my house. And my friends are so excited. They want to ghost hunt with me. And I want to set up old school ways of like Victorian parlor ghost hunting. Now, I'm just going to tell you this, that if you decide to do this on your own, just please make sure that you're doing it with people that you trust, right? Because Victorian ways of ghost hunting are not quite as scientific as they are today. And if you have someone that's untrustworthy and that's having an experience and they may not be the most honest person, you don't want them to lie about what they're experiencing, right? So I'm not just going to allow anyone to come over to my house. And that's really odd that I just said that. I don't even know why I just said that. I was planning on doing a Victorian room, but I was not planning on doing Victorian ghost hunting in my house. So apparently there's other plans for me to do that. It's just like, it's so odd. Hang on, let me show you. I want to show you a picture. This is a house that I'm wanting to rent in Colorado, and I designed it with some Victorian furniture. So I want to create this Victorian room. Like literally I have this on my wall as a manifestation, right? Like this is the Victorian room. Like you can see the Victorian, velvet couches, but there's nothing in here with ghost hunting. So that's really odd that I just went on that tangent. So that must have not been me. So that scares me so bad when I do that sometimes, because I have like no control over what I'm saying. So that's a cool idea, Sarah. If that's what you're wanting me to do, is do a Victorian parlor and ghost hunt, I'm fine with doing that. Didn't really have that plan till tonight. Jeez. Okay, now that I feel like I just got possessed, let's decide on a shade like it's just a normal Tuesday night. All right, this is 2 shades. What should we do? I kind of like this one. That's the shade Intention, I think. This is the shade Lightwork. I think that's... Oh, that one's kind of cool. That's more mermaidy, isn't it? All right, let's try the mermaid one. This is Intention. No, this is Lightwork. We'll put that in the middle. This one's from the Spellbound palette, if you were asking. And then for the inner corner, we will do Intention, which is this light blue. I can't believe I just said all that. That is crazy. That was like so in depth and in detail. And like, I would have never had that thought to like, wow, that was really specific, but okay. It's so weird too, because like that's what happens when I'm channeling. I catch myself mid-thought, catch myself mid-thought, catch myself mid-thought. There was an orb that just went by. I don't know if you guys saw it, but I catch myself mid-thought. Like I was having this big conversation with you guys about like making this haunted parlor, and all of a sudden I realized that it felt like I was in like the passenger seat, and like it like clicked all of a sudden. I was like, wait a second, why am I talking about like a haunted parlor and like ghost hunting in my house? And yes, it is true that my friends want to ghost hunt with me. That is true. But did you hear me say like you should do it with people that you trust so that they don't fake it? Wow, that was bizarre. I almost just scared myself out of that one. It's crazy too, because the more you like accept your abilities, like once you become, everyone has psychic abilities. It's not just me. You just have to be open to allowing them to flow. But I swear, like the stronger it just gets over time, and eventually you just can't stop it. Although you just have to have faith and like, I'm very much protected by my spirit team. They have never let me down, so I know nothing strange would ever happen. It hasn't. I've been in ghost hunting for years. I've been in paranormal for years, and don't fearmonger me, because I'll block your ass on my channel. That's all I'm saying. I guess another question people would say, is her energy chaotic, or does she feel cursed like what that medium said? Absolutely not. She's intelligent. She's cognizant of what's happening. Clearly, she just came through me stronger than hell. I don't think people gave her enough credit back in her day, which sucks, because she was a woman. She just happened to become a widow and inherit a bunch of money, and she was probably just never taken serious. And I hate to say it, but for that time, she probably needed to be hidden, because I don't know if that would have been safe for her to, be herself and be in the public eye. I really look at her energy almost like unfinished guardianship of, this 3D realm. I think that there's something about her in that house that is also safe and protective. I think she's a lot stronger as an entity than people give her credit for. And I think that if someone was mishandling the property or the business, I think that she would be strong enough to be able to remove them, honestly. Everything is energy. Just don't forget that. Even when we incarnate here, everything's energy. She doesn't feel like a haunting. She just feels like someone who is still at work. I don't think that the Winchester house is a house built out of fear. I think that it is a grief home that is built into a portal or a map for the other side. I haven't been there. That's one place I haven't gotten to go. But I think if I don't make a plan, she's somehow going to figure out how to get me there mysteriously, invited or something strange. I don't know. I just have that feeling. I think that I would come out of there with some amazing evidence. Although I look at paranormal so differently compared to other people, you know? Like, I'm not going to go in with a PSB7 and be like, is anybody here? Do you know you're dead? Like, I want tangible. Like, I already know energy exists. You know what I mean? Like, I want tangible answers. I want to have an actual conversation. I don't need to prove that it exists. That's not my followers. I'm not here trying to prove paranormal exists. It already exists. There's 161 rooms, 40 staircases, doors that open to walls, to windows, and even to floors. 13 appears obsessively, like throughout the entire property. There's spiritual significance behind that, and it's not what you think. It's not Friday the 13th. I think that Sarah knew what she was doing. I think she was heavily into witchcraft as well. And once again, it couldn't have been admitted at that time because she could have possibly gone to jail. And I mean, let's just call it what it is. The government is corrupt AF. It still is, right? Back in the day of Salem, they were taking women's property, calling them a witch just to get their property, right? Like, the only way you could have property is if you were a widower, right? So if you called them a witch, that was the easiest way to obtain their land. She could have really screwed herself if she would have come out with all that information. The government would have gone after her. In fact, I feel like that could have been her biggest fear, was the government. This was her chosen, the number 13 was her chosen number. It was not an omen. She had a seance room that was considered the blue room, which is so weird that I did blue makeup. Isn't it strange? I didn't even think about that. It's quite rare I choose blue. She entered alone into this seance room every night at midnight. She wasn't running from the spirits. She was meeting with them. She was having meetings, full-blown meetings. So weird. I had blue eye makeup that matched her spirit room when she channeled through me to also create a spirit room. That's freaking weird, bro. Sometimes I creep myself out. I mean, I kind of see it as building like a mystery school or a ghost school or ghost architecture. She had lots of spiderweb motifs. Once again, a goth girl after my own heart. But spiderwebs can also represent the interconnecting of souls. A web, we are all one. We are all of source. The door to nowhere made her sound like a mad woman, right? She was crazy. She wasn't mad. She was initiated. She was way ahead of her time. She was completely plugged in and connected to the other side. Tells you the powerful of a woman's intuition and how much you can make of it. She was a temple. And I'm not talking about the house itself. I'm talking about her. She was a beacon. She was a high priestess. She still is a high priestess. And the house was her temple. I mean, the public made a joke out of her essentially, but she was sovereign. She had her own money. I mean, yes, her husband died, but she had her own money. She could do whatever she wanted. And that tells you how dedicated she was to the other side. She could at any time become a spectacle and gone to the news and talked about her experiences with the other side, but she chose to stay private. Once again, a goth girl after my own heart. She didn't have anything to prove to anyone else. She was doing her duty as a light worker to help souls cross over to the other side. She also was deeply private, and she had rheumatoid arthritis, which was probably also painful. I mean, back then, medicine was definitely lacking. I mean, think about it. She used her own money. She answered to no one. Who'd she need to answer to? She built what she wanted. She did what she wanted. Girl was a badass. I just want her wardrobe. Honestly, if there's one thing I could get, it's just her wardrobe. She employed hundreds of workers at her house alone. She was the economy. She paid above market rates, too, for their help. So people actually enjoyed working for her. And here's the crazy part. She left most of her estate to charity. Not family, not legacy, but charity. The press called her crazy because she was, an insane widow mourning the death of her family. That's all they could talk about. She also refused to explain herself. Damn right, F the patriarchy, especially back then. A woman that's sovereign doing her own spiritual work where the outside world couldn't categorize, manipulate, or control. Of course, she was made to be the weirdo. Turned her whole life into a ghost story instead. She's definitely still in that house. She has unfinished business. She's still doing the same work she was. In fact, I think now that she's crossed over, she can access the other side even better. Sometimes I wonder if she created that house for the moment she crossed over. She's not haunting that house because she's trapped. She's there because she chooses to stay. Because that house is her empire, and I don't mean financially, I mean it's her temple. She's a high priestess even on the other side. She's still not done. Now I want to hear if you've ever been to the Winchester house, if you had experiences there. Do you feel like Sarah has ever reached out to you? Leave me comments below. And make sure you find me on Patreon as we talk about whatever we're going to do with Sarah tonight. I'm not sure what's going to happen. It'll be interesting. We're going to do a scrying session for Patreon. We're going to do a automatic writing session and a PSB7 with Sarah. I don't really like to edit those heavily because I like you guys to watch and hear them and come up with your own assumptions. Make sure you use a dream journal too, just in case Sarah decides to reach out to you next. And as always, make sure you download this on all major streaming platforms, and I will catch you guys next time. Bye, guys. And that's a wrap on today's episode of Ghost Girl Diaries. Thank you so much for joining me in my crypt. If you loved what you heard, be sure to subscribe, like, and comment. It helps the ghostly adventures continue. And also don't forget to follow me on all social media platforms. You can search for Krystal Leandra or Ghost Girl Diaries. Please support me on both. This is where you can catch exclusive content, behind the scenes footage, and stay up to date on all things paranormal and glam. And as always, stay curious, stay fearless, and stay spooky. And I'll catch you next time on Ghost Girl Diaries, where the dead never rest, and neither do we. Until then, my ghoulish friends, sweet screams.